What's going on, everybody? This is Steve Field coming back at you with a brand new video today, and we've arrived at the finale of my Scream review series. What I consider to be my favorite Scream film, and in a somewhat of a surprising opinion, one of my favorite horror films of all time, Scream 4. I mean, I'm not even gonna hide it, guys. This is my favorite Scream film. I absolutely love this film to death. I've loved it from the very first time that I saw it in theaters, and I actually loved the movie so much that I went back and I saw the movie 2 days in a row. I was tempted on seeing it 3 days in a row, but then I was like, yeah, you know what, I'll give it a little break. I love just about everything that this film had to offer. There are a couple things that it stumbled on a bit, and I'll get into that. But for the most part, I thought everything was really perfectly executed. It kind of brought the premise of the Scream franchise to its fullest potential. And honestly, if they were to make any future films, I don't know if it's a feat that they could reach again, but I could be wrong. But like I said, from the very first time that I saw this movie, I was encapsulated with all of it. I remember watching, the opening sequence, and when they kept going, oh, stab 6, stab 7. It's like, what the hell is this? And then finally, when it came up, Scream 4, it's like, okay, now we're getting started. But the opening sequence I've always loved, the back and forth dialogue between Ghostface and the two blonde girls. I think it was probably really Roger Jackson's best performance voicing the character. Obviously, Neve Campbell as Sidney Prescott is always great. Like I said in all 3 reviews up to this point, I think Sidney Prescott is the greatest final girl in horror film history. One of the only things that this film really stumbled on, in my opinion, is the chemistry between Dewey and Gale. Because, obviously by this point, it's been over a decade since the events of Scream 3. They're a married couple now. And the whole idea of Gale still being that journalist, trying to chase the next big story. She's trying to write a book because Sidney's come out with a book now. It does kind of get tiresome by this point. There's really been no real character progression with her or with her and Dewey as a couple. So that's one thing I thought they could have really improved on. And honestly, there's a couple of little silly modern horror tropes that didn't really work for me. It's like trying to add a little bit of ridiculous comedy that didn't really work, like the cop trying to fight the air after getting stabbed in the center of the skull. Not really believable to anyone with at least half a brain. Or, the fact that, not to go too far ahead, but when Jill is revealed to be as the killer, and she's basically, beating the shit out of herself to make herself look like a believable victim. And, certain, kind of forensics notice that, they're going to look under, the fingernails of the dead body, not hers. And she uses her ex-boyfriend Trevor's hand to scratch herself in the face. She uses his hand to yank out a piece of her hair. And she puts herself through all this punishment, acting as if, they're not going to notice certain things. And it definitely plays on the believability factor way too much. But those for me are just a couple of minor nitpicks, really. Other than that, guys, like I said, I absolutely love what this film did. Listen, the opening scene is iconic. I'm glad they brought back the original 3 again. And I love pretty much all the new characters that they had. Obviously, Emma Roberts playing Jill. Probably my favorite character in the film, maybe outside of Sidney, I don't quite know, is Hayden Panettiere playing Kirby. And it kind of seemed to me that they were trying to pass her off as the female Randy of this movie. Between her and Culkin, they were kind of, it's like there are certain pieces of Randy in this character, and then there's certain pieces of Randy in this character. So it's kind of up for your own personal interpretation. I thought the chemistry between all the characters was really good. Because they seem like a camaraderie that's been together for years, and it really shows. The acting ability of everybody involved. And I don't even know where to start, guys. You know, I thought this movie was really perfectly paced. It starts off with, you know, obviously Scream always has to start with a wickedly morbid death in the beginning, and then the plot kind of takes its time to really get going, and then right around in the second act, the plot really kicks into high gear, and the movie doesn't really let up from there. And I thought this movie did it the best by far. And what most people will take away from this is, obviously, you know, if you go back and watch the franchise as a whole, Scream hasn't really done a whole lot and inventive-wise with any kill scenes. And that's one of the major gripes you'll hear people have with the franchise, that usually it's just, you know, Ghostface using his friggin' knife, you know, stabbing the stomach, stabbing the backs, throat slits, you know, nothing really, like, overly inventive and iconic that we can remember. But if there's one thing that Scream 4 did right, is it gave us, not even undisputedly, the most iconic kill in the franchise, but it gave us probably one of the most iconic kills in horror history. When you see Olivia getting, you know, slashed around her bedroom, she gets her head broken through the window, and when Sidney goes up to her bedroom and her guts are just splattered everywhere, the whole room is painted in blood. It's very reminiscent of the kill from Friday the 13th Part 6 when the camp counselor gets her fucking blood spray painted all over the cabin. It immediately harks me back to that, but this was in more of a brutal fashion because you literally see her guts hanging out, and I'm glad that this time around Wes Craven and company had the nerve to kind of really push the envelope with the kills and the gore and not go too heavily into modern horror movie tropes, but to kind of just really ride that line. And I thought he did that beautifully, really. And just the whole cat and mouse game between Sidney and Ghostface throughout the movie is perfectly done. And then when you find out that it harps back to what this series has always been about, it's always been about family and about basically anybody Sidney gets close to is either at risk or they're one of the perpetrators involved in the murders. And I'll be perfectly honest now. When I watched this movie for the first time and Jill was revealed as one of the killers, it shocked the hell out of me. Because yeah, they give you little quirks here and there that she's a bit of a disturbed character because she got cheated on by Trevor, and her mom basically kind of keeps her handcuffed. And now as soon as her cousin Sidney comes back into town, you know, shit starts going awry again. So they give you little quirks here and there that she's a disturbed character, but they don't necessarily leave any breadcrumbs that she could be the killer necessarily, which was good because that's what made it so shocking that it ended up being her in the end. And just everything, guys, about this film is just absolutely beautiful, and I'm one of the few people in the entire horror world that believes this is actually better than the first one. I won't argue that the first one is more iconic because of what it did for the genre, the way it reinvented horror in the 90s. But as far as a pure technical film, this beats the first one by leaps and bounds. But I won't argue that the first one is more iconic for sure. But the only big negative I really have is not necessarily with the film itself, although to a degree, was that they had the perfect opportunity to turn this film into what was supposed to be another trilogy, because obviously Kevin Williamson and Wes Craven, they wanted to do a second trilogy. They wanted to do 4, 5, and 6. But, you know, this is one of those examples where, you know, the studio, you know, really stepped in. They overplayed their hands. They didn't trust the people involved in the production to do what they wanted to do with the project. They said, no, we're going to kill everybody off here. We're not going to leave any room for a sequel. And, you know, it really sucks because going back, you know, it really sticks out to me that they really had the potential to make something really great here. Because if they would have left this film off with the way they were originally intended to, where Jill actually wins in the end, you know, she did something that none of the other killers in the other 3 films did. She got the better of Sidney. She wins in the end. She manipulates the media to where she's like the all-American hero, and she's going to revel in the fact that she's a survivor like Sidney never did. And then if you follow up with like 5 and 6, where she gets caught, she ends up getting sent to prison, and then you have her kind of orchestrating more murders from the inside, and she has like this legion of followers doing the murders for her, I thought would have been a fucking awesome storyline to go with. And it really made you feel. And the only other gripe that I had, because if you were to go with that storyline carrying into 5 and 6, is that they should have killed off one of the major 3 characters in this movie. And as ballsy as it might be, they should have had the nerve to kill off Sidney. Because then, yeah, it would have been kind of like a Randy situation to a bigger degree, that you're taking out the most beloved character in the franchise, but then at the same time, it gives you the chance to really explore new characters and kind of take the franchise into the future, so to speak. Like if you were to carry Kirby and bring in more characters in 5 and 6, I thought they really squandered a huge opportunity there. And this is just one of the many examples where the studio should have just stayed out of the way and just let the powers that be do what they were doing, because I thought it would have served the franchise for the better. But nevertheless, I'm still very thankful for the film that we got. And I know we have Scream 5 coming out in a little over a year, which I'm definitely very excited about. I'm excited, but I'm also curious at the same time, because, obviously we got the big 3 coming back yet again, so, that'll be huge. And then the only thing I want to see is, I want to see if Kevin Williamson's going to come back to write this, because obviously after the whole debacle with Scream 4 and them kind of overriding what Kevin Williamson wanted to do, he's not exactly enthused about coming back to the franchise. But I think if Nev and Courtney and David and some people involved in the production wanted him back and they were able to persuade him, then I think he would. It would take circumstances to bring him back, but I do think he would, because he still wants to kind of right the studio's wrong. But that's really the only gripe that I can really think of, is that they really squandered a real opportunity that they had to make an iconic trilogy and to further ascend Scream in the eyes of the all-time horror franchises. But all in all, guys, except for those few little negatives, I think that this film is, like I said, one of my favorite horror films of all time. It's right up there with, for me, Halloween and some of the Psycho movies, etc. Yes, the first film was more iconic, but I think this film is better from a technical standpoint. I think they took the Scream franchise and, the whole premise of it, the world within a world within a world, to its fullest potential. The characters were great, the chemistry between the characters was great, acting was great. And I am curious to see where they take Scream 5. Only time will tell. So all in all, guys, I'm probably going to give Scream 4 a 9.6, a 9.7 out of 10. I think if they change those few little things, you take out the moments of ridiculous comedy. If you write a better kind of finale to the movie instead of the whole hospital sequence, and you have it to where Jill actually won, I think this film would. If I will say this, as much as I love the original Halloween, and I will say the original Halloween is my favorite film of all time, I think if Scream 4 changed just those few little things, if they were to take away the ridiculous comedy, write a better finale for the end, if they were to have it where Jill actually won and they had the balls to kill off Sidney and have us left on the edge of our seats thinking, where are they going to take the franchise now? This would probably be my favorite horror film of all time, and arguably one of my favorite films of all time. But it's still really high up there, but those few little nitpicks kind of boggle it down slightly. But yep, other than that, I think it's a great film, and I would definitely recommend it. So thank you guys so much for listening to me ramble on about how much I love Scream 4. And if you guys haven't had a chance to check out the first 3 Scream reviews, definitely go and check those out. I think they're definitely something different that everybody can grab onto. Definitely like, share, and subscribe. Share any social media platform, Facebook, Twitter, wherever. Let's get the channel up and going. Hit that like button. Thank you guys so much for letting me have a platform that I've always wanted to try, and just have a place to really talk about film, which is something I always love doing. And look forward on either Tuesday or Wednesday, I'll be doing my ranking of the Scream franchise. I probably won't be reviewing the TV show, so you don't have to worry about that. Let me know down in the comment section what franchise or what movie you guys would like me to review next. I'm all open to suggestions. And I'll see you guys next time.